Greetings, as I, Tentis Naravan Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome once more. Are all of you ready to join me as we dive once more into the world of darkness? Yes, we're heading to the world of darkness, and today in particular, Mage The Ascension. We're not talking about mages. No! We're talking about the Technocracy. So, as you're joining me, of course, you can check out Twitch over there joining me live. And for those of you joining me over later on YouTube, hey YouTube, remember like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that kind of great stuff. So, have any of you out there dealt with today's topic, the New World Order? Yes, one of the more infamous groups in amongst the Technocracy, because it's their, well, secret police. You know, that kind of does, generally speaking, make them a little bit more infamous when it compares to a lot of other members of the Technocracy. So we will be diving into depths about them, their history, what kind of groups they have, the different methods they go about, as we discuss them. But hey, I really like to shout out the book sources you might be able to check yourself if you want to dive deep into them, and of course, rules for playing them in this case. So what are the books that I can see if I'm going to look into New World Order? Of course, there are a number of source books you can actually check out, and we can start with the Technocracy New World Order book. Hey, it turns out there's a New World Order book. We also have the Technocracy Assembled, which is a source book which does include information on the New World Order. The convention book, New World Order, for something a little bit newer. And, of course, there is some information on it in the Mind's Eye Theater Laws of Ascension Companion that will give you some extras around the New World Order and the way they work, but in respect to the Mind's Eye Theater. So it's sort of like, this is the supplemental bit of information that you really don't need to look into, but if you really want to dive even more, like, I'm telling you how to dive really deep into the New World Order if you want to. And this will give you some extra dragging deep into information there. So here's our convention symbol. So the New World Order is often summarized by, or shortened its names to, the N.W.O. And as I said, they are effectively the secret police of the Technocracy. They are dedicated to shaping and guiding information. Why? Well, they're the group that makes sure the collective will of the masses stays in line with what they believe reality is and keeps things in progress. They are responsible for processing reality deviants. Reality deviants not just being mages, but also being any other supernatural creatures. And basically, they make sure these things that buck the trend of what reality they believe it should be and keep them secret. And they have very important goals along that line of advancing the timetable, the basically table that the Technocracy follows to keep in line with their plans. The timetable, very important. So, yeah, you can see how they are an incredibly important part of the Technocracy. They make sure the masses and reality stay to what they need it to be and guide it that way, and they use that to help push forward the general timetable of the Technocracy, their plans overall. Now, the New World Order also specializes in the most obvious of spheres, mind. So the idea when you talk about New World Order, and if you're meeting a member of them, is that there are things man was not meant to know. That is the like part of their entire spiel that they go about talking about, or they go about believing, that makes you New World Order. People weren't meant to know about this. Maybe it does exist, but they shouldn't know. So your job as a member of the New World Order is to keep people from knowing about those things that could wreak havoc on humanity. The fact that all these supernatural things and beings are hidden to the world, if they were known by humanity, it would make things difficult. It would make society break down, problems. So the idea is they aren't perpetuating this fiction that these things don't exist, not because they are cruel, not because they are enemy of the truth, but because they know that society would be hurt by these things existing in the zeitgeist of the mind. It is far better for the general masses, your average person, to believe your truth, capital T truth, instead. It is safer, it is simpler, it is for the best for them. Things can keep going on, and society can maintain itself with relative peace. Because your capital T truth is what they believe. And it's just as long as enough people accept it, well, might as well be real. So then you just hunt down anything that shouldn't be, which bucks this truth, erase violations of your capital T truth, educate those too stubborn and foolish to accept it, and remember, it's all for their own good. Everyone has potential and is worth saving. So, that's where New World Order comes in. That's the mindset that you're kind of thinking about there. And yes, you can see how they have an infamy about them, too. Again, it's an argument to be said that, certainly speaking, the simpler truth, the capital T truth they peddle, oftentimes might be better for the masses. Rather than knowing about mages, vampires, werewolves, and the various things they do to society, and a lot of the many horrible supernatural creatures that are out there which cause a lot of damage, or can. Is it right? Maybe not. Is it good someone's protecting them? Hard to say. It's one of those things, is certainly speaking, plenty of fiction talks about when things like this get leaked to the public and how things go. So, I mean, if anything about, like, the Fourth Inquisition or Third Inquisition in Vampire, then they don't have to worry, but that's just, I believe, bad storytelling, so, anyway. I've complained about the Vampire the Masquerade storytelling. So whose symbol is this? Well, this was the original symbol of the group which would become the New World Order, the Lightkeepers. So let's talk about that history. Because the New World Order is actually a relatively new convention when it comes to mages. They don't have millennia-old traditions as many other conventions do, even within the Technocracy. So they don't have this claim to greatness, to invent fire, the wheel, animate husbandry, money. Nor do they point out glorious battles against traditions of mages during the Mythic Age or Renaissance. Instead, like any good amounts of bureaucracy, they were created because of bureaucracy. During Queen Victoria's Great House Cleaning, as basically the conventions were being reorganized, and the Order of Reason itself was reorganized into the Technocratic Union, the Inner Circle recognized the need for organizing to police the thought of the masses. So yeah, effectively, when the Technocratic Union, during the Victorian Age, as it generally is now, was being born, those people in charge were like, we need something to do this. So they laid down a detailed history. So laying down what is a detailed history of the convention is difficult, because they do re-examine their own history and that of the Technocratic Union. So when they want details to vanish, they can very easily. Like there's the Kisarfai, who would be spiritual forefathers of the New World Order. They tend to have vanished from official history guides to the New World Order. So yes, now we get to the Lightkeepers, who are the factual forerunners of the New World Order. They were formed from remnants of the dissolved Cabal of Pure Thoughts, plus some of the Skasafi, who chose to remain in the Order. Again, they've been more erased from the history. And this was after the disastrous events of the French Revolution, when they attempted to install the Culte de la Raison, and Napoleon had his near conquest of Europe. Basically, the purpose of the Lightkeepers was to keep the light of reason by excising anything that could strengthen the superstitionic Cause. That is a hell of a word. Superstitionistic cause. God, that's a hell of a word. So now we have the Lightkeepers. Now we get to 1851. The Lightkeepers, along with the larger order, underwent reorganization and emerged as the Technocratic Union. So yes, the Lightkeepers existed within the Order of Reason, but they weren't there for very long. Keep that in mind. They were a group that gives birth to New World Order, but they aren't there for a very long time. They are basically remnants of something else. They were rechristened by the Ivory Tower, and this lasted until the later years of the 19th century, where the Union overhauled itself again, and then Lightkeepers became the New World Order. So the Lightkeepers as a group, and generally speaking as kind of like a basis of things, did exist before that great house cleaning, where the Technocracy was born, but not for very long. Basically, it's when the Technocratic Union, when they decided they needed this police the thoughts of the masses organization, they gave it to the Lightkeepers. They reorganized the Lightkeepers. And that's what they became, and lasted until they became the New World Order. So now we get into modern day. Hey! The work of the Order within the Union lies now in collecting, disseminating, transforming information. It operates agents throughout sleeper society, but especially seeks to influence education and the media. The convention also maintains spies through traditions and craft chantries, sometimes working with the progenitors to create perfect clones of enemy will workers. A technique that some whispers the N.W.O uses on other conventions as well. Hey, if I can create perfect clones and send them into, traditions and craft chantries, why can't I send them into conventions? The New World Order prefers subverting its enemies, destroying them. Grey men work constantly to recruit rival will workers through blandishment, argument, and torture. A Grey man being a group of one of the operatives. The infiltrators and spies that work within enemy territory. Keep those in mind. They are not just in New World Order as a convention, but probably I would say New World Order is where it has the most of them. Again, infiltration and spy is the best of their work. But it is a group term for Technocracy. The dimensional anomaly of 1999, the Avatar Storm. It severed contact to the umbral bases of the Union, making it harder work for them. The events of 9/11 aided their goal in information control. But economic crisis, the growth of the internet, and nefandic influence in the Middle East all leave the Union with much to do and much to observe. And without the guidance of control, the New World Order also clashes with Iteration X, who wants to reintegrate the program and wipe out all reality deviants. Basically, remember, Technocracy currently doesn't want to wipe out all reality deviants. They've taken a step back from that. But there are sections that do, and New World Order tends to be wasn't wanting to wipe them out in the first place. Remember? They'd rather subvert them than destroy them. Let them destroy themselves within if they can't kind of fall in line. So additionally, the other great powers in the Union, the Syndicate, has been subjecting to greater scrutiny after the aftermath of the economic disaster of 2007 and the apparent failure to gain substantial control over the ever-growing mass media. The Syndicate resents this, and tensions are growing between them and New World Order. So, yeah. Again, New World Order doesn't control, it manipulates. So, of course, with the Syndicate supposed to be the one that's actually in charge of mass media and controlling a lot of things, yeah, the New World Order is having some trouble keeping things in line. But they're trying. Let's talk about their organization, their methodologies, and some of their companies then. New World Order. So the New World Order possesses a complex rank structure in which members are differentiated by enlightenment, seniority, functionality, and, of course, methodology, which we'll talk about. The methodology of unenlightened personnel are sympathizers. The communication experts, securities, psychologists, government agents, intelligence operates, interns of the New World Order and its front companies. They also employ sympathizers as spies and agents throughout the mortal world, particularly in academia and media. The sympathizers are rarely aware that they work for a greater global conspiracy. Most just do some jobs of importance in business and government, reporting their findings to committees, sharing their interest with high-ranking co-workers, advancing the causes of order and stability. Few ever discover the subtle connections between government branches, academic circles, and global politics. So effectively, sympathizers, remember they're unenlightened, they are, people that can't use magic. So there are 5 main methodologies to the New World Order. The Ivory Tower oversees education and administration. Their purpose is 5-fold. Teach new recruits of the Technocratic Union to accept the world worldview. Operate immortal universities to make sure they can form party lines. Run the bureaucratic structure of the Union itself. And protect it from invaders and infiltrators. They are also in charge of social conditioning and act as talent scouts in universities. So, their history within the convention goes back to the foundation of the Union under Queen Victoria. Descendants of the Cabal, Pure Thought, and the Kasari were already involved in universities. With the reorganization, they stayed there, only changing their purpose in minor ways. The academic range of the different colleges stretched the venerable subject of history to newer fields like gender studies. The Ivory Tower consists of 30 different collegiums who collectively form a think tank that guide the policies of the Union. Certain subjects like psychology are supported and disseminated by agents of the Ivory Tower. So Ivory Tower is a place of academic freedom and expression, in contrast with some of the other methodologies in the Union. But since the dimensional anomaly, the Tower has also acted as official administration of the remaining technocrats on Earth. They've invested a lot of time and money into expanding its interrogation of its bureaucracy deeper into other conventions' infrastructure. The Tower also claims that doing so, they relieve its peers of the burden and responsibility of clerical work. Other conventions see this as unwanted intrusion into their hierarchy. So the Ivory Tower is an incredibly important part of the New World Order. Then we talk about the operatives. They focus on capture and elimination of reality deviance and espionage, focusing on mind and focus. So this is where we get the gray suits. The gray suits, the black suits, the white suits, the intelligent analysis. A ranking system that separates them from other conventions. I mentioned the gray suits. The black suits, they're shock troops against reality crimes. Many of them numbers are clones. A high number are unawakened or extraordinary citizens amongst them. The white suits enforce the edicts of control within the Technocratic Union itself. Members of all conventions fear them, as they have authority to question and process any members of the Union they deem a threat. And of course the intelligence analysts, they evaluate information they get from field agents and allied methodologies. They're responsible for assigning agents of the New World Order to agents of other conventions. And this can kind of draw back more to the Light Keepers. Wherever the real origin is, the operatives are kind of a mystery until we get to the 1914 kind of era and spy work. And what the operatives do is actually classified. Tradition propaganda paints them as perpetrators of abuse against the masses, who come and erase the minds of those who've witnessed supernatural acts, leaving as mental vegetables. Even with the Union, most are uneasy around them. So the operatives are part of the New World Order and are basically your Men in Black. Spooky. Like, if you actually think about the Men in Black, they are probably operatives. Then we get the Watchers. They focus on surveillance, media, and communications, with correspondence forces as their focuses. They also originate from the Great Housekeeping, from the Cabal Pure Thought. They catalog the threats to reality. It cost many early members of the methodology their life. In addition, their duties were expanded to keep watch on the sleepers, monitoring them for threats that could arrive in their midst. In time, the Watchers began not only to monitor, but to influence, mainly through modern media. Many Watchers operated horizon constructs that were cut off and the dimensional anomaly happened. This left only the field agents on Earth, who have to work without the guidance of their superiors. The advance of the internet further led to the creation of new, specialized methodology in their ranks, the feed. So we'll talk about the feed in a second. So they reinforce the static paradigm by influencing the masses what they see and hear. Evidence of supernatural suppressed, as well as anything that could jeopardize the Union's mission. The Union also uses their influence to study and influence the masses to accept certain new technologies. The Watchers do not control the media. They are heavily involved in raiding businesses, advertising agencies that shape what the media projects. Some do claim that doing so ultimately detrimental to the Union because dulling the wits of the population as a whole cripples the vision of a future technocrats. So, yeah. They do not keep their eyes on the masses or reality. They not only keep their eyes on masses reality. Even constructs of the Union itself are known to have fallen into their gaze. Disloyalty is reported to superiors of other methodologies, who then deal with offenders. With their structure, they have field observers, who act within the technocratic algorithms, report back what they see to the ivory tower for further analysis. Field reporters, who investigate stories of reality deviance and determine if the operatives need to step in. Lensmen, who work with various agents of the Watchers in touch with each other, as well as acting as counterintelligence agencies to prevent spying on technocratic constructs or agents. They were also responsible for installation of surveillance on Earth. Gatekeepers remain excluded in Horizon realms, monitoring the activities of the New World Order supervisor, using them to create global constants for the technocratic actions, cut off now. And surveyors, who are now lost, who are the ones who oversaw the direct efforts of the Technocratic Union in the Deep Umbra, working closely with Void engineers. So the surveyors are lost, the gatekeepers still exist, but are really cut off from a lot of people. Yeah, the Watchers still exist, but have heavily suffered. But they do that, they watch. Then we have the feed, which is very new. The youngest, basically having been funded post-2005. The feed is incredibly new, being about less than 20 years old at this point in time. The Collegium of Information Technology of the Ivory Tower, shocked by the unexpected and growing prominence of the internet, demanded answers about the reason of this and turned to the Watchers. The Watchers created this methodology out of experienced lensmen, but these only learned that the internet was unlike any media they'd encountered before. To better accommodate the study, the Inner Circle approved funding for this new methodology, creating from the best lensmen of the Watchers and senior Collegium members of the Ivory Tower. The feed does not only monitor social media, but also seeks to answer the question of why more and more sleepers seem to be able to become extraordinary citizens. I've used this term before to describe extraordinary citizens. It's what the Technocratic Union. It basically depends on it's someone that's basically raised in general importance within the Union. It's extraordinary people. Yeah. That's a really hard one to define, because it varies depending on the conventions. Some speculate the technology level has risen enough for global subsumption is within reach, while others that humanity has advanced further into the reckoning. The reckoning, of course, just to describe it, the meta plot in Mage The Ascension that led to the Ascension War and everything that happened. Several extraordinary citizens have been incorporated into the Union thanks to the feed, often with minimal mind procedures to preserve their attunement to the internet and current zeitgeist. Within the Union, the feed has a mixed reputation. Several regard them as cleanup efforts of the New World Order to fix the internet, and that they all get all the new funding and personal grates them. Others point to the obvious success and the new experts of the medium are sorely needed. Within their structure, being young, they have only 3 divisions. And most of the recruits to their number of members from other methodologies and conventions. So they don't recruit from new people, they recruit from other places. It's a brain drain that other technocratic institutions regard with hostility from several of its members. But the feed does pay handsomely from the money they've been given for this. Trend analysts are recruited from former lensmen. They analyze the internet, looking for patterns to begin to unlock its secrets. They mainly evaluate data that they're given by their agents in the field and report back to other conventions. Deep divers have the task to stay up to date with the current trends of the internet. The thankless and time-consuming job, the divers spend most of their time on Twitter/X, Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, similar pages where data is exchanged and trends are formed. I guess Twitch would be in there now a little bit too. Handlers recruit promising extraordinary students that were awakened by the internet into the fold of the Union. Several handlers are former gray suits. So yes. The unenlightened among the Technocracy, basically extraordinary citizens are unenlightened, but they are kind of enlightened almost. They're people that understand what's going on, but also aren't necessarily people that use abilities. Anyway, the Q division is a small methodology amongst the New World Order and concerns itself with equipment used by agents. Forces and matter are their specialties. It's always existed in a fashion, but really came into prominence in the 50s and 60s. Agents could utilize mundane tools for equipment and was shown by some various incidences. This proliferated the secret agent movies like James Bond and further strengthened the image in the consensus. And the New World Order was happy to adopt it for the purpose. Basically, James Bond and all his spy tech and stuff like that and being kind of silly, it became something of yes, the consensus was that's kind of out there, but there's a level of reality to this tech. And so basically the Q division, yeah. Their methodology was hurt most by the Reckoning. Several of their laboratories were off-world in the deep universe and cut off by the dimensional anomaly. A few remaining ones find that the strength and forces of Paradox make their works more dangerous than before. Paradox strengthened. They work closely with other methodologies of the conventions. Several members of the Q divisions were former members of other conventions that were recruited by New World Order for the purpose of developing devices that were able to use among the masses without drawing much attention. Recently, they've shifted their focus on apps and how to encode procedures into them. So yeah, they're basically, procedures are magical abilities that mages use. So they're basically learning how to use apps on your phone to help with magic now for technocrats. Q Division is responsible for distributing gadgets, devices, and talismans among agents of specific missions. As a result, agents vie for the goodwill and hard work to stay in their grace. An image that has damaged or worse lost a device from the Q Division could expect their equipment to be subpar next time. Now, there are some organizations and corporations that operate with the cooperation under the supervision of the New World Order. That's where we end today. The Cobalt Security is the 6th largest private military company in the world. Chatter Inc. It was a San Francisco startup and pioneer in the field of instant communications and messages seen in 165 character chunks. Continental News Corporation was a cable news network with heavily conservative religious slant. And New World Order operatives have infiltrated lower echelons, but haven't been able to penetrate management. The Thomas L. Prescott University is a liberal college in Massachusetts renowned for its psychology, physical science, and anthropology doctors. And Infotech is a consulting firm uses cover for the Ministry of Information. All of these are under the supervision of New World Order, though to different degrees. And that's the New World Order. An interesting group within the Technocracy. Certainly one that has a lot of power. Whether it is critical to the way the Technocracy work, that's a hard thing to say. I've talked about it when I talked about the previous convention with the Technocratic Union, how in the current group, Iteration X has some very important jobs. And certainly a lot of the other groups do. Now, New World Order does to a degree, but it's not like it's manipulation of the people. It's control of the people. It's ensuring what visions of the future that the technocracy want is the vision the people want. And this is important. It's a different kind of important to the work of the technocracy. As we can see, by talking about the different methodologies within New World Order, they are becoming more important. The ivory tower, with basically becoming the bureaucrats and controlling that. And then we have the, newer groups like the Feed, which are connecting to what the internet is becoming and becoming more and more understanding about that and how it is altering the world consensus in ways that the technocracy didn't expect. The boom in the internet was unexpected by the technocracy and their observations. A failure of the New World Order. That's why the Feed exists. And of course, we've got other divisions, Q divisions, the operatives, the Watchers, who are all showing reality maintains what it is. Like the other divisions, they have suffered by what had happened in 1999. And certainly, though, they have taken turns to reinvent themselves and strengthen themselves. And, maybe ingrain themselves even deeper within the aspects of not only their own convention, but all of them. The infamy of New World Order maybe isn't to be taken lightly. Maybe it is there for a reason. Because they are the Watchers. I mean, they say, who watches the Watchers? Well, they watch themselves. But no one else really does. And certainly, their ability to spy is bar none. But, honestly speaking, maybe there is some good in the New World Order. Remember, they don't want the Ascension War to continue. You can pretty much tell that they're at odds with others that would get returned to the war against the reality deviants. Control, manipulation, much easier. And that's what they want. War is not something they desire. We can tell it from the way they act. And so, we have the New World Order. Watching. Keeping an eye out. Well, that'll be it for today. I hope you enjoyed learning about something, and now you can kind of look behind your back and kind of worry. Are you being watched by the New World Order? Keeping reality in mind. I'll definitely talk about more Mage The Ascension, technocratic conventions and stuff in the future. If you want to check out more of that kind of stuff, every Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays are my normal things. Saturdays a backup if I miss them. That's when I have some streams talking about this stuff, which are put up on YouTube eventually. Discussing Tabletop Saturdays at 6 p.m. Talk about news of the week, deeper discussions of general tabletop topics. I have a live play of a tabletop game. Tabletop roleplay. Pathfinder 1st Edition. Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Crimson Queen. Check that out. EST through all the time periods. Everything does go up on YouTube, so if you can't catch it live, which I do recommend live, it'd be very fun, but you can always watch it on YouTube. I have Discord and Twitter, link below, that's my social media, cat pics, schedules, that's mostly what it is. With a few life updates here and there. I probably should have posted on Twitter some stuff from earlier today, but hey. Dating when this was live, there was an earthquake in my region. Oh no, I dated it slightly. Anyway, I'm going to take a drink of iced tea. And then after I finish drinking, keeping my throat nice and a little hydrated here, we're going to say goodbye. Because it's been great. It's been fun. But until the next time I talk about Tabletop, World of Darkness, Mage The Ascension, and the Technocratic Union, I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.